Thank you for joining me today for this interview. We would like to do a follow up on your article on cage free production, egg production, and what has happened since you did the study. So let me start by asking you, do you see Asia's unique cultural and economic context shaping the cage free transition compared to Western countries where the practice is more accepted?
Mhm. Actually, currently, there's a cage-free movement that's been, I guess, more evident in Asia. So it's very exciting because it's moving in a rather fast pace now. So what's exciting with Asia is we're, I guess in Asia, we're very adaptable. So if there are new changes, if there are innovations, people are really receptive to it. So it's a big opportunity for transitioning to cage free as current populations are also more aware of animal welfare as well as transparent food production systems.
Okay. In your research, producers express both optimism and skepticism. Since completing the study, have you observed any shifts in producer attitudes toward cage-free adoption, and have there been more adoption?
Yes, since we conducted the preliminary study on the cage-free production system, there have been, well, not so many, but at least there have been already some egg producers who have transitioned to cage-free egg production. There have been also increase in commitments, but we still have to see compliance with those commitments. So they made commitments to at least by 2030 or 2035 to source, if possible, 100% of from cage-free production systems. So there have been movements, but like you mentioned, egg producers are also requesting for support from government and specifically for technical support to be able to transition properly to the new production system.
Are there any emerging policy initiatives or government programs in Asia, and specifically in the Philippines, that could meaningfully influence the pace of cage-free production?
Yes, I think the movement with policies in terms of laws with regard to animal welfare is also in line with the concern on food safety. So also people are more aware of what we call the One Health approach, meaning um, when we safeguard health of animals, specifically animals that we use for food, there is an impact on human health as well as environment. And the current population is very particular now on or very conscious on where their food is coming from. So with that, government policies are also moving towards, well, unfortunately not. There are still a few policies that are mandatory. More, for example, in the Philippines are just voluntary, but at least there have been some third-party certification schemes that would prove or provide transparency. Because consumers are, well, they have, I think, trust issues wherein they really need evidence that the food they're getting is from ethically sourced systems. So the third-party certification is a good way of ensuring our consumers that indeed what they're buying is of value.
So do we have these third-party um, companies already doing this in the Philippines?
Yes, if it's okay, if I can name, for example, in the Philippines, we have cage-free certification by an NGO. It's the Animal Kingdom Foundation. So far they've certified a couple of big players, big egg producers in the Philippines. It's because companies have also seen the growth in the demand for cage-free eggs. So they're adding on to not really transitioning 100% to cage-free because again, it will take time now, but at least they're adding on to their commitments to produce or to make available cage-free eggs in the market.
Okay. Um, Producers often cite profitability concerns. And do you see innovative business models or supply chain partnership that could help balance cost with market opportunities?
I guess the worry would disappear when they see that transitioning to a cage-free or I guess higher standards when it comes to animal welfare is they're opening new markets will be open to them. So specifically there are some export opportunities. A lot of Asian countries are now demanding for ethically sourced eggs. And in their country, they cannot produce it. So there's really an opportunity to enter those markets, new markets. Um, but of course, it's also good that we raise demand within our own country before going out. No, but just to say that there is a high demand or an increasing demand, a rapid demand for that kind of product.
Right? In your study, you mentioned demonstration farms and monitoring tools. Which specific technology or innovations do you think hold the most promise for making cage-free viable, not just here in the Philippines, but in Asia?
I personally was able to train in Indonesia. They have they're actually they're moving towards a new innovation on cage-free farming. So we were able to train there under the university UGM, and they have a model farm. So it gave us really a picture of how we can drive our producers to transition to that egg production system by providing training. And a model farm would actually show them that it is possible, no? That it is possible and it's still profitable. Um, of course, we know that when we ensure the welfare of animals, it would really affect their productivity. So, which will in turn uh, translate to sales. No? So, we just need to let producers see that. Well, at least if we have model farms, then that's a very good way to capacitate our egg producers. We wanted to, we were dreaming to have one here in our university, but we we need support from stakeholders, from players to be able to create an ecosystem of care. So we're looking at um, companies that, for example, are involved in housing, in ventilation, in computer systems, that would help in making this ecosystem of care. Of course, the market for cage-free eggs, but specifically for the Philippines, we really need technologies to address problems in terms of temperature control, temperature regulation, and one thing that we also want to beef up is with regard to biosecurity.
How how might international trade standards or export markets influence Asian producers' willingness to adopt cage-free practices? You
Like
mentioned some.
yes, I mentioned a while ago that in Asia, there are already a lot of countries who are demanding for cage-free eggs, and they cannot produce it locally. So, with standardization of practices, for example, we have the global animal husbandry practices. that aims to standardize practices within Southeast Asia. Well, unfortunately for the Philippines, it is not yet mandatory. Currently, it's just voluntary, but I'm a member of the technical working group. And while it is not yet mandatory, there is a plan to provide incentives to farms who would apply for this certification. So if we have this, if we are able to address this compliance with standards, then it will really open opportunities for trade.
Do you see this um issue like in the Philippines happening in other Southeast Asian countries as well? The problems
Well,
with
yes, I think in um, other countries in the global south, they're already able to do it in a mandatory basis. Na. But I guess in the Philippines, wherein economically we're more challenged. So I think we need a transition period, and the incentives would be a good way to just to encourage farmers that before we make this mandatory, we are here to support you, and through the incentives, you can enter the markets that will be opening up.
what are the most critical areas where further research is needed to support producers? Is it biosecurity, consumer education, or economic modeling?
Mm, well, I'm currently taking my PhD, and it's already on human behavior change intervention. Because there have been already a lot of studies on, well, scientific evidence on the effects of, for example, raising animals in cage systems. We have already evidence that they're experiencing pain. Being sentient animals, they can really suffer from those kinds of systems. So we already have a lot of evidence on that. But we also have to look at what would motivate people, specifically egg producers, to um, increase the level of care for their animals, because they're the ones who actually handle the animals. So what would um, motivate them to put premium on welfare? So we would like to know, is there a gap in terms of knowledge? So that's one area that I'll be looking at. Or if they're knowledgeable about it, what are the factors that actually prohibit them from implementing high welfare standards? So we're now moving to or addressing areas that can help farmers, interventions that would influence behavior. And also recently with AI, so there have been farming systems wherein they're incorporating AI to help monitor animals. Because of course, we can't be there 24/7 inside the farm to monitor the animals. So with the use of AI, it can alert producers immediately, and we can address the problem, no, rapidly, rather than go the following day and see that uh, there has been something going on. So I guess detection of problems, specifically of health problems, would be very critical, and AI can be a powerful tool if we use that.
Um, if you were to revisit this study, 5 years from now, what indicators would you look at to measure whether Asia is truly moving towards cage-free systems?
Well, I think, well, measurable parameters would be commitments to, for example, commitments from uh, restaurants or from hotels and other enterprises to source their eggs from cage-free farms. And then, aside from commitments, again, compliance of these commitments, but also the percent of eggs that are actually being produced from cage-free farms, or let's say uh, from those that are with following animal welfare standards. I don't like to confine it toward cage-free, but more on, because it's not enough that you provide a cage-free environment. You still have to look at other parameters. So not just to stop by removing the cage, but also to provide other needs of the animal. So I think those are the measurable parameters that we can look at.
Okay. As a final question, Dr. De Luna, as a researcher, what surprised you most during this study? And how has it shaped your own perspective on animal welfare and food systems in Asia?
When I uh, when I was offered to be part of this study, it was during the pandemic, and coming from a commercial farm, I've worked in a commercial farm before. I didn't expect that, specifically for the Philippines, that our egg producers would be receptive to new innovations, specifically on improving animal welfare practices in farms. So I was very happy that they were open to transitioning, but of course there are a lot of challenges, and but they're open to um to welcoming supports, especially from the government, and maybe from the academe. We could also provide technical trainings for them. So it was a very and it was a very, how do you call this, a positive a hope for our, at least for our livestock and poultry industry, that although we are behind compared to the more to the UK, of course, European Union and other advanced countries, we're going there. We're at least we're not closing our doors to improving our production systems.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. De Luna. And I wish you luck on your future endeavors with the promotion and research on cage-free production.
Thank you also, Isa. Have a nice day.
Bye.